Philip Dunne.
Thank you very much. Again, it's a great pleasure to follow the Honourable Member for Witney, who's been such a powerful campaigner to improve the quality of water in our rivers in his constituency in West Oxfordshire. So great to hear him speaking on these subjects. And also to follow my neighbour, the Honourable Member for North Shropshire, who I think made a very powerful speech earlier. I'd like to start by congratulating my honourable friend, Member for North Devon, who is a member of the All-Party Parliamentary Group for Rural Services, which I chair, and I'm grateful to her for securing this debate. It won't therefore surprise the House that I want to focus my brief remarks this evening on the role that government has to play in improving the allocation of funding towards rural areas and recognising that the metrics for measuring rural deprivation through the funding formula are regrettably flawed. The Prime Minister recognised this when he toured the country this summer. He was roundly criticising for pointing out that even in some of the more affluent areas, seemingly affluent areas of the countryside, there was real rural deprivation. And our political opponents tried to make merry of this and make fun of the Prime Minister for being out of touch. Actually, it revealed to me that he was completely in touch with what's going on in real rural Britain, representing, as he does, one of the largest rural constituencies in England. At present, the indices which are used to measure multiple deprivation do not adequately take this into account. The Rural Services Network, which supports the APPG that I chair, and has provided a very useful briefing for colleagues for this debate today, has found that rural areas receive 37% less in government funding per head than their urban counterparts, equivalent to £105 per person per year. And while receiving poorer services, as was so ably pointed out by my honourable friend from North Devon, rural communities also suffer from lower wages, about £2,500 less on average per head, and face significantly higher costs. On average, rural residents pay 21% more per head in council tax bills, some £104 than their urban counterparts, due to the way in which the government grant is distributed in favour of urban areas. Weekly transport costs are about £40 higher, so that rural families spend 4% more of their disposable income on transport each week. And of course, in many of the larger rural areas, in particular in Shropshire, public transport is very thin on the ground. So people have to rely on cars, and with the energy prices going the way they have been, that figure of £40 is an underestimate. It was prior to the energy crisis. And nowhere is this more apparent than in my own constituency of Ludlow. Ludlow is currently the 6th largest geographical constituency in England, and following the Boundary Commission proposals announced yesterday, will become the 5th largest geographic constituency in England, gaining 100 square miles from my honourable friend, the member for Shrewsbury and Atcham, who I'm very pleased to see is supporting this debate. Of course, rural areas have their own inherent beauty, and the lack of people and the sparsity of the population is one of the reasons why they are pleasant places to live and people choose to live there. But the density of population is the fundamental problem when it comes to allocating funding from central government, because it's based around people, and with just 56 people per square kilometre within the Ludlow constituency, we have one of the lowest densities of any constituency in England. Other members have touched on... In fact,
Would my right honourable friend give way?
Very briefly.
I'm very grateful to my right honourable friend. I just wanted to point out to him also that, of course, we have a disproportionately elderly population in Shropshire. Adult social care costs are going through the roof. 83 pence in the pound by our council is spent on adult social care costs. Will he agree with me that in addition to levelling up, the government needs to do more to support our councils in this area?
Well, I think the pressures of social care costs on areas which have got demographics where that is particularly acute is becoming at crisis level, and we noticed that in particular in Shrewsbury, and the point was made by an honourable lady opposite. We also suffer from poor broadband provision, as has been said by others, and although the accessibility to broadband may be there as a result of the government's gigabit programme, the speeds in rural area are about a third slower than in urban areas. We have problems with accessing public transport, as I've mentioned. Fewer than half of rural residents have access to a further education site within 30 minutes of their home via public transport. So access to both employment and education is a challenge. Rural residents are now more reliant on off-grid energy generation, in many cases facing huge rises in costs for domestic heating oil this winter, as around 1/3 of households in Shropshire are not connected to the gas grid. And that's why it is so critical that the government continue connecting rural homes to superfast broadband, support rural transport provision, and urgently clarify how off-grid homes, including residents of park homes and others who don't pay their own electricity bills, can access support with their energy bills. I would strongly encourage the Minister to look again at the funding formula. Despite being an objectively affluent county, there are 2 of the lower super output areas in Shropshire that fall within the 10% most deprived in the country, including 1 in the town of Ludlow itself. These are unlikely to be highlighted by any of the national indices of deprivation that he will have brought forward to him by his officials. There are some suggestions that the RSN, the Rural Sparsity Network, are offering to encourage better, closer alignment of funding formulas with the reality of rural living. And I would encourage him and would be very happy to come and talk to him through the APPG to discuss these issues. They reflect the increased cost of delivery of services in rural areas. But so in addition to the metrics already included in the white paper, metrics such as the proportion of those in fuel poverty, the frequency of public transport services, the percentage of premises with superfast broadband, and the distance to further education providers would all provide a more accurate snapshot of inequality in rural areas. And finally, I would like to add to the comments of my neighbour to encourage the Minister to look favourably upon the levelling up bids from Shropshire Council, including the Craven Arms Gateway to Growth bid, which I've been pleased to support. This bid would deliver a major transport infrastructure project in the heart of South Shropshire and unlock undeveloped employment land, providing up to 50,000 square metres of space for jobs and a further 500 residential dwellings in a future phase. Unlocking new jobs and opportunities for training and skills ticks many of the boxes for his criteria. I just urge him to consider some of these levelling up bids going to rural areas, so that rural areas shouldn't just be left behind in the levelling up round that comes under his careful stewardship.
Yeah.